Welcome everyone to Diane's Patisserie. I'm Diane Nussbaum from Diane's Patisserie, the executive chef and head owner and bottle washer and everything else that has to happen in our pastry shop. So today we're going to be presenting Patisserie, which is better known as cream puffs and eclairs, and we're also going to be making some cream puff swans, a little bit of a cream puff tower. We're going to be making a dessert called Paris-Brest as well, which is a very traditional French dessert, very lovely to serve in the spring or summertime. So let's get started. We're also going to be cooking the patisserie dough, and you would want your eggs to be at room temperature. And if you don't have time to get them to room temperature, you can just put your eggs in a little bowl of warm water. It will warm them from being in your refrigerator for too long, and then it will give you the best product when you're ready to make them. So our first step is to take 4 ounces of butter and 4 ounces of water, and we're going to cook it on the stove until it comes to a complete boil. And then we're going to be adding 4 ounces of all-purpose flour and mixing it to make a paste. And that's the paste that's going to become our dough. And then we'll be adding the eggs, and then we'll be piping it onto our sheet pan to make all the different shapes that we're doing today, the eclairs, the cream puffs. And you can see that things can be different sizes, bigger, smaller, depending upon your party and what you want to serve. If you're doing, small desserts, or if you're doing one per person, those are perfect. So let's go over to the stove and get things rolling. So you can turn your burner on to a high heat to make sure that everything gets melted properly, and it helps if your butter is at room temperature when you start as well. I'm going to just go grab my flour so we're ready to put that in as soon as this comes to a boil. And one of the things that you're looking for when you're cooking this dough, you want all of the butter to melt, you want it to come to a full boil, and then we're going to be taking the pot off the stove to add all of the flour all at once. And then we'll be mixing it back on the burner until you see a film at the bottom of the pot. Also, it will look like a smooth dough. So that's what we're looking for. And it's important that you cook it long enough, because the longer you cook it, the drier the dough is, the more eggs you can add to your batter. The more eggs you add, the better your cream puffs will puff, and that's what we're looking for. We've also preheated our oven to 425 degrees. You want to cook these at a very high temperature so they get a real burst of heat right away. And that's also what makes your cream puffs very airy, no filament inside. So these are the things that when you're making these cream puffs you want to be doing. Let's see how we're coming along. So we've cooked our flour into the water and butter, and you can see that it's a very nice smooth dough. I'm putting it in my mixer, and we're going to let some of the steam come out of the dough before we start adding the eggs. You don't want to start adding them right away. So when we're adding these eggs, we're going to be adding them one at a time, because we don't want we want to make sure that each egg is incorporated into the dough properly. And we can speed it up a little bit to get it incorporated. And it starts to look like it's curdled, and you'll see that it will come together and make a really nice dough. So I'm saying that you add 4 eggs, but by the time we add the 4th egg, we're going to look and see if the batter is too thick or too thin, if we need any more eggs or not, and I'll show you how to check that as well. I'm going to add the 4th egg now, and then we'll decide if we think we need the 5th egg. So it's coming together into a nice smooth dough. So the way that I check, and this is a Julia Child method, you take your spatula, and if the dough is hanging down kind of loosely, then it's ready. But I think we need a 5th egg. So we're going to crack 1 more egg. And a lot of times this all depends on the temperature in the room. how warm it is outside. So many things in baking really depend on outside influences when you're baking. So you have to check. You always have to check to make sure that the dough is the proper consistency that you want it to be. And now it's looking very good, and I think we're going to be able to start piping our cream puffs and eclairs. So we'll just move our fillings over to the side for the moment. All the wonderful things that we're going to put inside our cream puffs and eclairs. And I'm using a plain round tip to pipe this. And you can see how it's hanging from the beater now. This is perfect. So I like to pipe smaller ones, smaller cream puffs and eclairs, because people like to have a little taste of many different things. So that's what we're going to do today. And I believe that you could pipe all of them on the same tray and still get a good, take them all out at the same time. So you're just going to pipe around and kind of pull off. You don't want to point at the top. So we'll do a few cream puffs, and then for the eclairs, just pull back, squeeze and pull back. Now for the Paris-Brest, which I haven't shown you yet, it looks like a big donut. And you cut it in half, you cut it open, and then we're going to fill it with some delicious things. So we'll just put that there for the moment. So you just make one big circle with a hole in the middle, and then one more on top, and we'll pipe one more. You want to get the air out of your bag. And on top of this, we're going to put some blanched almonds and a little bit of powdered sugar. And this helps it to keep its form and shape in the oven. And this is lovely if you want to have an individual dessert to have at a dinner party, so everyone gets their own little dessert. But you can also make this as a big one too if you want to cut it. So we're going to put this in the oven, and it's going to bake. They bake for about 20-25 minutes until they're golden brown. You want them to be nice and puffed, and you don't want to peek in the oven because you don't want to let all the heat out. So we're putting them in the oven. We have some cream puffs and eclairs that we've already baked. Then I'm going to show you how to fill. And the one thing that I did not show you how to pipe, but I'll do that right now, we made some swans, which are very fun to have as a dessert. And you can see some on our tray. So I want to show you just how to pipe a swan, if that's what you want to do for one of your desserts. And you don't need a lot of dough, and you don't need a very big tip. And you can just use a plain bag with no tip at all. So it's like making, drawing the letter S, but kind of backwards. And this is going to make a very fine swan, but I think we'll make the opening just a little bit bigger. So I'll show you on my cake board. So you start at the bottom, and you're making like a half a circle coming up, going around, and then pull at the top to make the beak, and pull it out. Let me just take this off of here so you can see it a little better. So this is what the little swan head will look like. I'll do one more. So you start a half a circle, come around, come up, make the neck, pull hard, pull it out to make your beak. So that's if you want to have some really cute little swans. Now we'll go on to decorating our cream puffs and eclairs. So to make a swan, you're going to take your cream puff, cut it in half, then cut the top piece into 2 pieces. And we will take some pastry cream or whipped cream, whichever you prefer. Going to pipe it inside. Then you take your 2 wings, which just one fell apart, but it doesn't matter. And that's the front of your swan. And then your little swan head just And this one is a little bit big for this particular cream puff, but you can still get your swan in there. And then a little bit of powdered sugar. And there's your little baby swan. Now for the Paris-Brest, again, I've cut them open. So you can do custard inside. And I've sliced some strawberries, which I think would make a lovely dessert as well. And we also have some whipped cream. So you can place the strawberries inside your Paris-Brest. Let's get these guys out of the way. And then I like to do a little bit of whipped cream, even if you've used the pastry cream. I like to do a little bit of whipped cream on the top as well, for many reasons. One, because one reason is everybody loves whipped cream, and also because it also helps to hold your strawberries in place. So let's just give it a very nice extra little touch and put our lid back on, and a little powdered sugar. And then we have a very lovely Paris-Brest that I know your guests will truly enjoy eating. So let's say you like eclairs more than you like cream puffs. We can certainly do some of those. So let's get those filled. And we usually do chocolate pastry cream with our eclairs. So for these, I like to cut these on the side and open them to fill them. For the cream puffs, we usually just make a hole in the bottom to fill them if we're not doing a swan. So we usually do vanilla custard in our cream puffs, chocolate custard in our eclairs. So I'm just going to empty this out into our, and fill these with chocolate pastry cream. Now you can see the ones that I have already finished. Some of them are finished with chocolate ganache. Some of them are finished with a mocha. And there's many different ways that you can finish each of the different cream puffs or eclairs that you like. But these are the two most traditional fillings. And we just like to pipe in a nice amount of chocolate pastry cream. And then to be able to dip them in chocolate ganache, we have to melt our ganache. So we're going to use the microwave to help us do that at this moment. Go over to the microwave, clean this up a little bit so that we can continue with our dipping. So we've filled our eclairs with our chocolate pastry cream, and now I'm going to dip them into a very light chocolate ganache that's pretty thin. We've melted in the microwave, and always be careful when you're melting chocolate to go 30 seconds at a time because you don't want to burn anything. So I'm just going to gently, and it's good if you fill them in advance, put them in the freezer, but you can see this has a very lovely shine to it. Try and get your fingers not in the chocolate, but then of course somebody always wants to lick their fingers, so you know, if your kids are helping you and you're at home, it's okay, but not in our kitchen. And just scrape it off so you don't have a lot of chocolate dripping. So we're making these all chocolate, but then we also have our mocha glaze, which is easy enough to make. So if you take half a cup of confectionery sugar and add some instant espresso coffee that you've diluted, you can come up with a mocha glaze. And they do sell espresso instant coffee in the supermarket. It's pretty easy to get. You have to look for it. It's a small bottle, but you can find it. So now we can do a little decorative design like I have on mine there. And it takes a little practice to be able to stripe your desserts, but it's something to practice and fun. So these are looking very beautiful. And now we have more cream puffs that we have filled. And so for these, we're going to dip them in the chocolate and help build a little cream puff tower, which is usually called a croquembouche, which means cracks in your mouth, and you make that with caramelized sugar, but today we're doing it with chocolate ganache, which is also delicious and people will be very happy to help eat this. So I'm just going to move this over so we can build on here. And you can see there's some that have already been dipped. This is a little darker chocolate ganache than the first one, and you want to have a little drip on the bottom so that you can make it stick. So we're going to just keep adding our cream puffs to this. And if you're having friends over for dessert, they will think this is just the coolest thing ever. So we want to get a little more drip. And then if you haven't put enough ganache to make it hold, just use your spatula and just start drizzling around, because the more ganache, the more delicious it's going to be. And then if you have one big cream puff at the end, you can dip the bottom in and put that on the top, and then you have your own little cream puff tower, which I think is just so much fun. So I've peeked in the oven, and our cream puffs and eclairs are still in the process of getting big and beautiful, and we'll be able to show them to you in a little while. But for right now, we're going to take a little break and see if we can get them out of the oven sooner. So our cream puffs and eclairs have come out of the oven, and they're looking so beautiful. The bottom is nicely toasted. The inside just has a small amount of filament inside for you to have plenty of room to fill them up with your pastry cream. The eclairs came out beautiful, bottom nicely toasted. So 425, about 20 minutes, but everybody's oven is different. And then of course the Paris-Brest, which we've already filled the 3 that we came with. And then they look like a big donut, but again, the bottom is so nicely toasted. So feel free to use any pastry cream or any custard that you really love to fill these. You can use instant pudding and add a little lightly whipped cream to your instant pudding to make it a little lighter, like a Bavarian cream. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will be continuing our series with some apple strudel, some special chocolate decorations, and many more exciting, fun things for you to make at home and enjoy with your family and your friends. And they'll be so jealous that you know how to do all these fantastic things that really are not hard at all. I'm sure that you will succeed. Please call me if you need anything, if you have any questions. Diane's Patisserie at dianespatisserie.com or 609-502-4073. I look forward to seeing your creations, and any questions or pictures that you have, please share them with me as soon as possible. Have a great day.